One.
Are we live? Or whatever you want to call it? Okay, cool. This is episode 3 of season 1 of Same, Same, But Different. And today we have our guests, Laurel. lots of names. Yeah.
Yeah, Lolo is my sister, the youngest of 6 children. And I just want to say it's still so weird that we're actually doing this podcast. It just feels very strange, Riley, that we're doing this. But anyway,
I actually feel like I'm on TV.
I know. It feels really professional, doesn't it?
You look great.
Yeah, you look fantastic. So Laurel, I'll just read some roles off who you are and who you have been. You're obviously a mother, your daughter, you're an aunt, you were a wife, your sister, your sister-in-law, cousin. You've been an athlete, which is specifically a swimmer, baseball player, an exercise junkie, aerobics queen. Remember those years?
Oh, yeah.
And remember those years of sun worshiping? You're a sun worshiper. You used to be out in the sun for hours. You're a tomboy, or you were a tomboy. I don't think
I still am. A little bit.
You've been a student. You've been a girlfriend. You almost were a stenographer. You've been a waitress. Are you a ward clerk officially? A ward clerk?
No, because I don't like that name. That sounds like I'm in the 50s and I make minimum wage. I'm a unit coordinator.
Unit coordinator. Love it. And then you're a walker. You're a friend. You're a China visitor.
Yeah.
You're a Secret Santa organizer. And now you officially are a podcast guest.
Awesome.
So what do you think of all that?
How do you feel?
That's a lot. I never thought about that. I'm
sure we missed stuff. What did we miss?
I don't think you missed anything.
What? Really?
Oh, yeah. I don't think you missed anything. You got it all.
Okay. How does that feel to hear 20 roles that you've led in your life just read off about you?
Kind of like, wow, that's a lot of stuff I've done.
Yeah. And how does it feel to, I feel like, with this format, like how there's a podcast we're doing and we're kind of interviewing one person at a time, it's a lot of attention on whoever is being interviewed, right? And so some of us like attention more than others. And I'm wondering how you feel about being on the podcast and what you were thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm just going to be asked questions for an hour.
Right.
How are you thinking about that?
I don't like to be the center of attention at all.
Yeah.
It's a little awkward. Am I frozen?
No, but you just don't want to be the center.
No,
of
I
attention.
don't like to be, but I think the old me would have been having a really hard time with this, but now I'm it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just different. I mean, I wish that it wasn't so novel of an experience, because I think it's nice for people to have, undivided attention on them, and really for people to ask them questions and get to know them. So I wish it wasn't as novel, but cool. I'm glad you're good with it, and
I'm expecting excited. Joe Rogan at any minute.
he could make it.
It really does feel so professional.
Well, thank you to Zoom. I mean,
I know.
this wouldn't be as comfortable if we hadn't been doing this on Zoom for the last 9, 10, 12, 10 months.
Right.
9 months. Yeah.
Gosh, it would be cool if we were in the same room doing it, but that's okay. This is pretty intimate also. Okay, so I have a question for you. So if you think about Laurel and you think about yourself today, how would you describe yourself, or how do you see yourself? You can choose a bunch of words, or you can just talk about it, but how would you describe Laurel?
Oh my gosh. I should have got a list of questions.
Who are you, and what makes you you? How do you describe yourself?
Oh gosh.
I'll tell you what, I'll help you out. I'll help you out.
Okay.
A moment ago, you said the old you and the new you.
Right.
So maybe you can contrast what you're talking about. What was the old Laurel? Describe the old Laurel to us. Is this the old Laurel of 0 to 30 or who is this old Laurel, first of all?
Oh gosh, probably from 14 to, how old am I now? 52, 45.
Okay, that's like the old you. Okay.
Basically, kind of like a wallflower. I think I just kind of existed.
Huh.
And but now I think when I think about me, like I can think I'm quiet, but I'm also fun and talkative.
Uh-huh.
I'm nice.
Mm-hmm.
I am helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Loving, funny.
Mm-hmm.
Funny. I can't really think of anything else.
So now, like when you say like you used to be a wallflower and like you're kind of just existing, so now you feel like more present in your life and you feel like more. Is that David sneezing? Sorry if you can hear that.
I heard that.
Yeah,
so more now, present. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how unpresent I was.
Where were you?
I don't know. I've actually wanted to I meant to put it on my bed. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Because I read, I tried to be so organized. Hold on one second.
Mm-hmm. That was a really loud sneeze, four sneezes from David.
I heard something, but I couldn't tell what it was.
So I don't know if you guys watched Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, the new one.
Yes, I've seen it.
Anyway, I love Jonathan Van Ness. I think he's amazing. Oh my God. I want to be his best friend.
Yeah, he's so sweet.
And Reed got me his book for Christmas. And this, I actually read this. I think this was last night. And I highlighted it, but.
Love it.
And I'm really trying not to cry, but now I'm not going to be able to find it. Hold on.
If you do, that's okay too. You won't be the only one on the podcast to cry. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Did Grandma cry?
No.
I keep crying. Every episode I cry. Just happens.
So he was talking about, because he was like molested and just like a rough life. And his therapist told him that shame is the feeling of, if you knew all there was to know about me, you wouldn't love me anymore.
Aww.
And I think that's what I wanted people to know, because Jesus Christ.
That's okay.
Because I feel like it was a part of me, and all my weird quirks were kind of because of that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, but I also thought I had to tell them, because if they found out later, they wouldn't want to be around me. So
do you Laurel, do you think that shedding that just happened, or did you just, how did you kind of shed that and move beyond that?
Well, I think it was once I left NAO and finally got the help I needed. The group, I think the group therapy is what saved me. Because I felt that I was like going crazy, because it was like 30 plus years, I just should have been done with it. And, it was still affecting me so much. And then this group of women who went through similar things, older than me, and it still affected them. So I knew that and then I, read about it, and, it affects people their whole entire life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think once I realized that,
it's kind of sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what happened to you is, it's awful on so many levels, but it's a confusing thing, because it's something, shameful. It shouldn't be shameful for you, but you feel shame around that whole situation. And you, as a human, you had to carry that throughout your whole life. And it was such a huge part of who you were. Unfortunately, it was a huge part of who you were. But it was also very private, and it was something you didn't really want to revisit. And it was something you didn't want to have to bring up all the time to people. But at the same time, it really was a part of you. It was an experience. It's just like if someone, goes and lives in China for 20 years, they're going to want to talk about that because it's part of, you know, what made them them. But it's so hard. I can't imagine for you how hard it is because you don't really want to revisit it all the time. You don't want to have to explain that to explain you. But unfortunately, you know, that's part of your story, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. It sucks. But, you know, I always try to find the silver lining in everything. And I think that this has definitely made me a stronger person. I think it took me 30 plus years to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it made me a stronger person. And, you know, but yeah, it is a lot of, you know, I think the thing that bothers me the most is the victim suffers for their whole life. Mm-hmm. And the accuser kind of basically maybe serves his time and then goes on and lives his life. And, you know, they may feel remorse or not. But here the victim just continues to suffer as the accuser just, you know, continues on. And it's just a shame that, you know, that it has to be that way.
Yeah, it's like he assigns you all this extra homework you have to do your entire life that you did not ask for. You know, you wanted to just live your goddamn life, which is already hard enough, but then you get hit with something early on and it's like it affects everything. But you are a completely different person now than you were 10 years ago, for example. Like you are just you're just present. Like, and I feel that, like, I think present is the best word to describe it, is like, you are here now and like, you are like living your life and you're engaged and you have friends and you're enjoying. It's almost like, I feel like I've seen you kind of almost like relive not your teen years, but like that kind of young woman exploring independence, kind of just like really going after life. I feel like I've seen you do that now in your late 40s and early 50s, which is really fucking cool, because better late than never, you know?
Never, yeah. I think you're right. And I think emotionally, I was thinking about, I think I'm maybe about 26, 27 right now.
You and me, girl.
Good. Party on. Wow.
Yeah. Because that was another thing actually that I learned in therapy was you are pretty much stay emotionally at the age your trauma happened at. And I didn't realize that. So for all those years, I was just this 14-year-old. And so I think I'm slowly, you know, growing up.
That's a long time to deal with a feeling of shame, Laurel.
Oh, it really is, you know, and it's just like the shame, and a funny thing that happens too is when I talk about it, I feel like people pity me, and I don't want people to ever pity me.
Yeah.
And but you know, because I was just going to say something, and I thought, no, I don't want to say that because people will pity me, so I'll say it anyway. But I don't ask for pity, but I just would like people to know how much the victim suffers, like for, you know, until probably, I mean, before I got there. So I'm trying to think of 7 years ago or whatever. Every single day I would have to multiple times a day look in the kitchen, make sure nobody was hiding. Every single day.
That's awful.
I still do it every once in a while, you know. Very rarely though now. But it's like, you know, I think people need to know how much victims suffer, you know?
Yeah. And I think it needs to be a conversation, like part of the conversation. Like trauma is trauma, you know, no matter what avenue it arrives, it's good to talk about it and connect about it, right? Like it's not healthy. It's not healthy to have, you know, things you just don't go, like you just don't go there. No one asks you about it. And I don't think our family was ever like that. Feel
worse. Oh no. Yeah. I owe a huge part to Grandma, that she always was, we need to talk about it. This needs to be open. This is an open subject, because it was very open with my family. But Nao would never let me talk about it. You know, I would have feelings and I needed to talk, and he would never. So that was like really hard.
That's hard.
Because then that kind of brings on more shame, you know?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if there was something you could have done more of, like you said, you talked about it openly, which is great. Nao didn't want to talk about it, but there's other things that could have happened between 14 and 45, whatever you said, that could have helped you break through earlier, do you think?
Well, I think that the big thing was I think back then there wasn't much knowledge there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it was just, and so I learned early on, like quickly, I don't remember when it happened, but I learned early or very soon to just pretend like I was okay. I would say like I was okay. And so I wasn't in therapy that long. That should have continued. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, grandma thought I was okay. And, you know, I said I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the big part, was that I should have continued in therapy. But
I think when we're young and trying to set up a life for ourselves and get going to school and get a job and get a family, and I don't think the energy's all on that, and you don't even maybe
right.
notice the deep pain. And then you get settled into a marriage in your 30s or something, and then you're like, fuck, I'm screwed up. There's something
Right.
wrong. There's something wrong
Right.
here. It happened to me too.
Right.
I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So are you
Life is
angry?
hard enough.
Do you have any anger? Do you have any anger about this, or did you have anger in the old you? Were you ever really angry?
Yeah, I guess I think what make the most anger comes from that he, like I said, continued to live his life. And mom has said a couple things like, well, he served his time. Well, yeah, that's okay. But, you know, that was basically in prison longer than he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what bothers me the most is the that they just continue. And like I said, he may have remorse, he may, whatever. That doesn't matter. And it also makes me angry that someone would do such a selfish act.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To basically his little sister.
I know.
I mean, he was like a big brother to me. So.
Yeah.
I
I like to
most of the
believe
anger.
that those abusers are already in hell and they're already suffering, and he will suffer the rest of his life. I don't think that he's done after a prison sentence. I think that he's fucked up. I think that he's been in hell his whole life, and I think he's still in hell.
I hope so.
I don't think people without living in that kind of hell or with that kind of trauma behave like that unless they're really in a weird place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm.
I hope
So
you're right.
I don't want you to write him off as being, oh, he's having a great life. I'm sure he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. And,
I
I also,
hope so.
I do know that, I have a hard time with apparently had a mental breakdown or whatever. That's hard for me to give that. To me, that's giving it an excuse. So, but
Yeah,
things happen for a reason. Maybe I'll figure it out someday. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I mean, if looking back, like, how do you think you would be different if that didn't happen to you? Do you have like any idea, how your life would have gone in a different direction?
I've actually thought about that. And I think that, well, there you go. I think things do happen for a reason. Actually, I never thought about that. I think if that hadn't have happened, Grandma and I probably would have continued to live in Lompoc. And I may have never left. I had never actually thought about that. I think that, we left because, it was hard for me to go to school every day and feel like everybody knew. And so I think that if that didn't happen, me and Grandma probably would have stayed there.
Huh.
I mean, I don't know, and most of the people who stay in Lompoc don't do very well. So actually, there you go. I never even thought about that. That maybe was, that got us out of there.
Right. And then you came, so I'm just trying to understand the timeline of everything. So how old were you when it happened, and when did you leave Lompoc?
So I was 14 when it happened, and it was 1984. Is that right? That would be right? Yeah. 1984. Yeah. And then we left, I knew all these dates. So it happened when I was 14, so 14, almost 15.
Mm-hmm.
And we left right before my 16th birthday. So we were there like
85 you came to San Diego, I think.
Oh, and then you
came
whenever I turned 16, is that right? Yes, because I graduated in 86. Yes, so in 85. So it would have been like what, like maybe 14 months after it happened.
And then you went to Patrick Henry.
I went to Patrick Henry, and then I went back to Lompoc because I wanted to graduate from Cabrillo because that would be the last of the Whitneys and graduate with all my friends. And so I think it was February. It was right after Shane was born, and I was so sad to leave him. It was horrific, but yeah, February, and I lived with Susanna now till I graduated, and then I came right back.
Wow. So Susanna and I were in Lompoc living. You went to Henry, and then you went back for a handful of months just to live with Susanna now and then walk. I never knew that.
And it was so much fun, those 5 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was fun to live with Susanna now.
Yeah, all your buddies, all your childhood friends.
That I had known since before kindergarten. It was
great.
Yeah.
Wow. And so when you came from Lompoc and then you went to Patrick Henry and you all of a sudden were in San Diego, like what was that like for you? You know, your family was, Courtney and Mom and Brandon were all here, right?
And Elisa.
Yeah, and Elisa. And then how was that? Like you left all of your friends and your childhood behind, but you came to a new place where your family was. And how was that for you?
Well, it's funny because I think that I was such a shy kid, but I think, so I don't know I think you guys know this. My friend Brenda that I've been friends with since 14, before in Lompoc. So probably since we were 11 or 12, her dad was in the military. And at the same time, I remember she said, my dad's going to get transferred either to San Diego or I think it was Marysville.
Oh, yeah.
Marysville. And they got transferred about the same time that we moved. And she lives like 2 blocks from Elisa.
Oh my gosh.
And so Brenda went to Patrick Henry too. And I think that helped a lot because I was such a shy kid, but Brenda and her sister, I knew them.
Oh, wow.
But I think that probably internally, I just knew that like I could not, it was hard to go to school every day. And then I think oh gosh, here I go again. I think you guys know the story about my Spanish teacher. Do you guys know that?
No, I don't think so.
So it was Mr. Esparza, who's a family friend. I'd known him. I went with this Timmy Esparza. We were in kindergarten together. And his dad was a Spanish teacher. And so my assault happened and it was in the newspaper. And I can't remember how long it was in the newspaper. And I can't remember
your name wasn't
not my
in
name.
It. Yeah.
No, not my name, but his name. And I can't remember how long I was out of school after it happened. I don't know if it was a couple of days or a week. Anyway, we went back to school and I had him for Spanish. And he said that we had to write a paragraph about a current event in Spanish. And so the kids were like, and at that, every day when I went to school, I just felt like everybody knew.
Yeah.
It was like, I felt like it was written all over me.
Yeah.
And so he was saying, Mr. Esparza, what should we write about? Blah, blah, blah. We don't know what to write about. And he said, well, why don't you write about that 14-year-old girl that was raped?
No way.
Yes. And I just remember
you were sitting in the class.
Yes. And I don't remember what I did, but I just remember like being mortified. Ugh. And I think I eventually told Tim, like I saw him at a reunion, and I think I told him just because it was just, now I can kind of, laugh about it, but it was just such a terrible thing. And I don't remember how long that happened. And and it's funny because when I talk to friends now, nobody really knew. I thought everybody knew.
Right.
And there were only a couple people that I've talked to that knew, but nobody really knew. And it was all just my thinking that everybody knew.
Yeah.
Which is totally understandable as a kid. I mean, that's like the biggest thing that happened to you is in the goddamn newspaper. That's awful.
Yes. And why the Spanish teacher, why he would even say that? Because, 90%, it had to have been someone, it happened in the village where we lived. So it most likely would have been some girl at Cabrillo, and why he said that, but.
Well, maybe, I mean, to me, like, it's just really unlucky that you were in the class, because I think that is a pretty forward thinking thing to get a class of kids to write about, because it's, that's real. But yeah, like, that is just so unlucky that poor little Laurel is in that class, and the thing that you're most ashamed of and going through currently is now the topic that everyone's writing about. That is honestly like nightmarish stuff.
Yes.
I hate that. I hate that for you. That is awful.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
That is horrible.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. And it's funny when I think about it, I never really actually thought about it till now, because I always thought it was just so strange that he would do that. And he had to have, he must not have known, because I don't think he would have done it. But like my school counselor knew. And so I would think that like my teachers would have been told, but this could also be, maybe he was told eventually. But anyway, yeah.
Well, as a teacher, sometimes.
Do you want to go get it? Maybe it's your Amazon.
I don't really like to answer my doorbell.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we should talk about that.
Well, I don't think anyone should answer their door.
How that's changed over the years. Oh my God. Do you remember the doorbell ringing when we were kids, and everybody would run to the door and race to the door to see who could open it up? And you would just blindly open it up, and it was never locked in the first place. Remember that?
I know. Yeah.
And the jokes are now it's like the doorbell rings, people are like, who the hell's here? What's going on? Why, who's coming here? Why is somebody knocking on my door? It's so weird.
Very true.
It's so weird.
It's like, it's panic sets in when you hear the doorbell.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
George Lopez, remember that? He was talking about a Mexican family when the doorbell rings. It's so funny. Well, they were, I think, because you talked about that years ago with Nao. It's like he was ahead of the game on that one. Now everybody's followed suit. Now everybody's like, who's at our door?
Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
Laurel, I know that when you moved to San Diego, and I apologize, I was in no frame of mind to understand and know what the hell to do to help my sister cope with what you went through. I mean, I was 21 years old. I was so consumed in just adult life and college and water polo and working. I don't think
anybody knew.
But I know what to do. I mean, I don't. I wish I could have been more help.
No, I've never even thought about that. I don't think anyone knew what to do.
I know.
It was just like a foreign thing, and we never in our million, what's that, wildest dreams would have thought that would have happened.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And at that point it was just you and Grandma living in the house?
Just me and Grandma. Yep.
And so
I had just gotten, and then here's another thing where I don't want people to pity me, but I was born scared. Poor Reed, he was born scared. I was born scared. You were,
yeah.
And I had just, within the last month or so, because Grandma would work like 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And I was just able to be home alone at night by myself because I had always been so scared. And
Yeah, Rilee, I don't know if you know this.
Fuck that guy.
She couldn't sleep alone, so she would sleep in Courtney's room with me and Courtney, and she'd sleep on the floor, and then we'd have to hold her hand. So she would reach up.
I've never heard that. I thought it was Elisa that did it out.
No, you guys
did it too?
Yeah, you had to hold somebody's hand. just you needed to know that your family was there or somebody was there for you. So yeah, you were born scared. I think it might have gone back to your eye surgery.
Could have been.
What do you remember about that? Surgery? That is a story that needs to be told. This is the most pitiful thing, Laurel, and I'm so sorry you even had to deal with this.
That's so funny because this is the only things I remember about it.
Tell Rilee the story of the eye surgery.
That part. Okay. So I had wandering eyes. Like I would look at you and maybe one eye would be over here and one eye would be up. So, God, I forgot about that, Brandon. And so and this is so weird because I remember dates and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was May 5th, 1972. No idea why I would remember that. Anyway, so they had to have eye surgery. And I guess, when they told me that they were going to put me to sleep to do it, I thought they were going to put me to sleep like they put my dog to sleep, that I would never wake up.
Because we just put our dogs to sleep. We just put our dogs to sleep. So did you say you're 5?
Well, I think it would have been 4, almost 5.
So she's about to go under to have eye surgery, and they said, we're going to put you to sleep now. So she thought she'd never wake up again, ever.
And I must have not told anybody or told people after.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Pitiful.
It is so pitiful. I know. It is so pitiful, but it's funny. The only thing that I remember about that was I remember Grandma taking me to a checkup like the day after or a couple days. And I remember being in this office. I can still remember what the office looked like. And I remember getting sick to my stomach and I threw up in this sink. And I opened my eyes because I wasn't supposed to open my eyes, but I opened my eyes and they must have just taken the bandages off or something. But then when I got home, there was a surprise welcome home party. And I think there were like M&M cookies or something. Does that ring a bell, Brandon?
It starts to ring a little bit of a bell, but it's a very faint, tiny little bell. I can't recall a lot of that.
I think that's one of my first memories.
Wow.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that you had wandering eyes.
Yeah.
We called it lazy eye.
Weird.
Lazy
eye, yeah.
Lazy eye. Oh my gosh.
Funny. I know.
Wow. So yeah, you always you kind of were scared. You said like Donovan or Reed. Who would you say? Like Reed?
Reed was born scared.
Isn't that interesting?
I know.
Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? He just came out and you could just tell he was nervous?
Well, I mean, I say that kind of a joke, but remember he would be little and he would go to the park and he said, I don't like kids, and it was like, I'd always try to do mommy and me thing. And it was always some kind of genetic thing,
I remember that. Yeah.
So.
Wow. Well, you had mentioned that you were thinking of your pans. What's cooking in your pans? Do you have your answer for that? So do you want me to repeat the question or do you know?
Yeah, repeat the question.
Okay, so basically it's like, what 3 things in your life right now take up the most mind space? Like, what 3 things do you think about the most? What are you cooking in your 3 pans of life?
Okay, that's what I think it was. So I think my biggest pan would probably be my family and loved ones, like making that they're healthy and happy and everything's good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I have like little side pans that would be like there might be 4 pans.
Sure.
But I think the other pan would be like my boys. I always want to make sure they're happy, healthy, safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other pan would be Kevin, that I, want to be as best a partner as I can. Why is that choking me up?
That's sweet. Love it.
Like.
What's in your other little pan?
And then probably like my work. Like I want to be a great employee and but just Kevin, like he's helped me so much.
Wow. Good for Kevin. That's a lot of love.
Kevin.
Laurel. That's love.
Wow.
I wish I could cry. I don't cry. It's fantastic.
You don't cry, Brandon? You should give it a try. It's really nice.
Well, not on a podcast. Not right now.
Well,
I choke and gag.
I think it's you and Mom. Lisa does that too. My mom is so afraid to cry in public because she holds it down so long that all of a sudden she's like,
there's snorts. There's just really weird sounds that come up. Gags.
I think Laurel, I think that crying and choking up and getting emotional like you do is, I know it sounds cheesy, but I think it's strong. I think it's vulnerability. I think it's showing, like how much you care and you're like, fuck it. I want to just show my true feelings. I love that. So why does talking about, do you want to talk about Kevin and why you cry so much when you said how much he does for you?
I didn't expect to cry. No, I just think he's helped me so much. And, like, show me that I'm important and I matter, Like I never thought I mattered.
Oh, Laurel.
Or was important.
And now you have this beautiful relationship, and you guys do adventures together, and you live a life together, and you just, you're partners. And I don't know if nothing against Nail, but I don't think that Nail was like your partner in that way. You guys raised children together and you lived that portion of your life together. But I think you, like Kevin, was someone that you probably, would have grown had you had married someone like him, like
right,
where you guys have more in common and you like to do the same things, and he gives you that feeling of importance and like being seen. So I'm glad you have it now. This is your renaissance.
Oh, I am too.
Yeah.
This is your renaissance period,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Your rebirth.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so your pans are like family, love, partners, like it's just family, and then there's a little pan for work.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think that's always just I guess maybe work and just in life general, like, I always want to be a good person,
you are.
Oh, thanks. I think it's important to be nice and helpful and,
Where does that come from? Where do you think is that come from the outside? Somebody taught you that, or you think that's internal?
Well, I think all us Whitney kids have it. And so I think it's internal, but I think it's mostly mom. I think mom instilled in us to be kind, to love everybody and accept everybody. And I don't think, I don't want to say a lot of parents don't do that, but I feel like she really made it a point. I don't remember specific instances or anything, but I always remember, and she was always kind, and everyone always loved to come to our house.
Yeah.
I think because it was just so much love. So, who knows? I guess maybe internal and also grandma,
I want to know, just like, I think if I could time travel, I just realized this, I would freaking love to time travel to the time where you guys were all children and mom and grandma was there and you all were living in the same house, doing all those funny meditation things together and cleaning house with the music really loud, and you're just, all the neighbor kids would come over. Like, I want to hear about that a little bit. Like, you guys it just sounds like you had the coolest childhood.
I love, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of memories, I think, because I was so young, but there's little snippets that come up. Like, I remember us laying on the floor in this house we had in Rigel, and grandma was making us all do yoga. And, and then.
Remember the lion?
The lion? Yeah. I'm sure you know that one, Rilee.
Oh, it's horrible.
All fours, and you open your mouth and stick your tongue out.
You open up your eyes, and it's just, and we walk in the room and grandma's doing the lion. And it was kind of scary image.
Yeah, one of my best memories, and this is just so awkward, and a lot of people would like be weirded out by it, but I used to love to sit on the toilet and talk to mom while she took a bath.
Oh,
and it was so normal. It was.
That's, I think not
people
awkward.
Are like,
that's cool.
But
unless your pants were down and you were and the seat was open. That'd be weird, but if you're just sitting on the toilet,
you mean like pooping? Like pleasuring myself or something.
Oh,
I know. I was like, where are you going with
Where's
this,
this
Brandon?
going?
Oh no, just like if you're sitting on an open toilet going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
For like
but
a long period of time.
Even that, I would not put past our family. Our family would do something like that. Grandma's bathing and one of us is just pooping on the toilet. That's pretty normal.
Grandma was naked all the time.
I know. It was so funny. And I remember going in her room and talking to her while she got ready, and she'd be just naked with rollers in her hair. And it was all just so normal. It was, there's nothing shameful. And so unfortunately, I wish I had more memories from that time, but those little snippets, like remember Brandon, that one, actually, and then I remember that earthquake that happened. It would have been, we were living on Rigel. We were with Bernie, so I don't even know, in the early 70s maybe, or 60s.
But you remember the swimming pool,
on Polaris.
On Polaris. Oh wait, you remember much about that pool? that house? Oh, interesting.
I remember.
That's with David?
No, I don't.
When we first moved in with David.
The only part I remember, I think, about Polaris is me apparently I hid your doll. That's the only thing I really remember about Polaris.
Oh yeah.
Brandon had a doll?
Brandon had a doll called Simon.
Was it Simon?
I think it was it was a ventriloquist.
It was a ventriloquist doll.
I'm just kidding.
Right?
Just kidding.
and apparently he couldn't find it anywhere. And I don't remember why everyone thought I took it, but Grandma had a friend who was a psychic, and her name was Dixie. So I have little snippets, and apparently she said, I don't even know if we ever found it. But
well, his name was Lester. His name was Lester.
Lester. For some reason, can you show a picture of him, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm going to pull up a picture.
For some reason, I think I got blamed for it, and I don't know why. But
Dixie saw that you did it?
I don't remember.
Well, Laurel was kind of notoriously kind of annoyed with her brothers and angry at us. And so
at that early age I was already?
Yeah, I think so.
That is another interesting thing is for some reason, no, I think that was in later years, Brandon. For some reason, I hated my brothers. They were the nicest brothers. They were so good to me. I don't remember this, but Grandma says they love me so much and they try to pick me up and carry me around and I was so mean to them. And for some reason I hated them. I have no idea why. I think it's just kind of maybe like a sister thing to do. And then for some reason it just stopped.
So do you guys see the doll?
That's the same with me and Shane actually. No, we don't see it yet.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, I went through the same thing. I don't know what that is either, but I understand what you're saying. Oh my God, Lester.
That's Lester. There was a very famous
scary.
There was a very famous black comedian and he had his doll Lester, and I wanted to be a movie star at that time. I was all into something to be famous, and so I was practicing ventriloquism.
That is so cute.
And then my dolls goes missing for a long time. So my mom says, why don't you call Dixie on the radio? She had a radio talk show, like a telepathic talk show. So I called. I wish that was recorded. I wish it was recorded. So
you called her on the radio?
On the air. On the air.
You said, "Where's my doll, Lester?"
Dixie? I said, I lost my doll and I don't know where it is or something. And then so she suggested it was like near a pile of newspapers or something.
Oh, that's right.
Anyway, I think we ended up finding it in the garage, which is where we stored some newspapers. But anyway, it was kind of tucked in some box or something. So somebody deliberately. Yeah, and I've been holding on to this. And I've been holding on to this for 50 years, Laurel. Anyway. So we always assume Laurel did it, but we don't know that for sure. She was a prime suspect, though, because of her hostility.
I think that's my only memory I have of Polaris, and then Rigel a few more. But yeah, Grandma was fun. We just always had big family dinners. We all sat at the dinner table together. It was, But yeah, Rilee, you would have loved it.
Yeah, I hope that wherever we go after death, we can go revisit and live in these different moments, because I would just love to see the 5 of you guys just as little kids running around, and that'd just be so cool. It just seems like the coolest era ever.
It was a great time. I mean, we played outside, we didn't have these attractions that drawed us into the house, right? We just were outside. No rules really. Mom didn't say you got to come back in an hour and check in. It was like go, and they were just gone.
Yeah,
I don't know about Laurel,
the baseball
though.
Field. I don't remember. I remember going to the baseball field, and I just hung out there all day and went to the concession stand and got treats. I don't know. That'd be interesting to ask Mom. I don't know if I got as much of free range as you guys did, but
yeah,
I don't remember.
So here's another question for you.
Okay.
Are you leaving, Dave? Love you. What would you say? Laurel says, "Love you, Dave."
Love you, Dave.
Oh, Brandon feels obligated. He loves you too.
Well, wait. He didn't say it back.
Yeah, you didn't say it back. He has a banana in his mouth. You didn't say it back.
I love you.
Thank you. Have fun. What do you think motivates you in life?
That's a good question. Do you have to have motivation? I don't know.
What gets you out of bed?
Yeah.
What gets you out of bed every day?
Just that I know I need to get up.
So you're a rule follower?
I can't stay in bed all day. I can't stay in bed all day.
Following the rules motivates you.
Well, I mean, it was, as a mother, I always knew I had to get up and take care of the boys or send them to school. But like now, I think I just, and I don't want to say I don't have motivation because of that, because I do. I'm not lazy, but
I'm sure it's all the things in your frying pans that are motivating you to get up every day that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a good question.
It's a hard question for sure. It kind of like, yeah, we can come back to that, but I would agree with Brandon that probably like, yeah, all the people you love and your work and your responsibilities and, just what you have to do to just live life.
Yeah.
Just live in life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Interesting.
Laurel, how about parenting? Looking back at your parenting, what are some thoughts that come to mind as you look back on raising those two wonderful boys, like you as a parent?
Oh gosh. I think I was a good parent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know if I would have changed anything.
No regrets?
I was afraid you guys were going to ask this.
Uh-oh.
No, my biggest regret is breaking up my kid's family. That's like, and I carry so much guilt. Ooh.
Oh no, stop right there. Stop right there, sister.
Yeah, I know.
You can't, because that means I have to be guilty about my divorce? No. You had to move on, sister. You had to.
I had to move on, and I hope that the boys know that, or will
they'll
know
understand.
That.
They'll understand.
But that's my biggest regret is.
But they're seeing such a healthier, happier mother. Don't they see a healthier, happier mother?
I agree, but I made them so sad.
You made them sad?
They were so sad. And that's.
Well, yeah.
It's a painful time for you and now and the boys, for everyone. Yeah.
And I knew I had to do it, and I wouldn't change it because it had to be done. But
yeah.
That's a hard,
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't mean to do that to you, Laurel.
Well, no, I'm glad, I assumed you would ask that, and I'm glad that it came up because I hope they know that, how sad it, oh gosh, that was Amazon? UPS at my door. I didn't even order anything. I wonder what it was. Anyway, it's okay.
Well, go get it. You don't want it to be stolen.
Well, no, it sent it to me. It said I have to go pick it up now, but I didn't order anything. So
but you said you were waiting for a package.
That was just Amazon. Just but
don't they Amazon comes in the US mail sometimes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. No, but it's okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do this to the thing.
So I have a question about, the divorce and your kids and your guilt and everything. Do you and the boys talk about it now that you are all adults and you can reflect and some time has passed and you all have grown up? Do you have conversations with them about that era, or is it something you don't really talk about with them?
I don't think it really comes up that much. Things will be said here and there. But yeah, it's not really talked about a lot. And I don't know if we just don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've never said not to talk about it, but Yeah, it's never really talked about.
I think you might want to be like mom and be direct with them as they grow through their 20s, and bring it out of them. Like, because you're sitting back waiting, but maybe be a little bit more like mom and force them to think and talk to you about it. But I can promise you, as they grow older and have relationships of their own, they're going to understand how somebody cannot, you just can't, your life is valuable and so precious, to remain committed,
I agree. And maybe I don't really say it. Maybe I just don't really talk about, because I feel guilty about making them sad, but but I would never, like, I try to be like grandma, like anything is always able to discuss,
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Well,
Rilee, do you have let's do some quotes, or do you have some input from I have some input to share.
You want to go first, Brandon?
Yeah, we got a couple of things. Elisa, you already read. She accidentally sent it to you.
I only read part of it.
It's okay.
First couple words, and I knew that she accidentally sent it to me.
So we just solicited.
And then she called me. Well, let me tell you, then she called me and she left me a voicemail. I was still sleeping, and the voicemail says, "Wizard, do not read that email, or do not read that text." Like trying to be like all stern.
We just tried to solicit from different people, like experiences they had with you to share, or thoughts about you. So Elisa writes, when Laurel became my little sister at 6.5, she was 6.5, we developed a kind of maternal bond. Now we have become more like sisters and good friends and co-workers. I can always count on Laurel to pitch in and get things done and work hard in any situation. She's reliable and always happy to help. She asks for nothing in return, ever. She likes to plan parties and is always up for a get-together. She's so devoted and loyal. I know I can count on her to be there. I listen and help in times of need. I love to shock her. She's kind of pure, and I want to make her laugh. Thanks, Wiz, for being a great aunt to my kids and grandkids and spending your precious time caring for them. Love you, sis.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I have some more. Bujal said, "You're such a great human, and I'm so lucky that I get to know you. I'm so glad we've gotten closer over the years and have been able to share some hilarious moments, like when I took a photo of you on your phone and posted it to the family album by accident. Oops, I love you, Laurel."
By accident.
Yeah. And Reed says, "Mom, words cannot describe the amount of love I have for you. You've always been there for me and have helped shape me into the person I am today. You've given me so much support throughout the years, whether I was worthy of it or not. And I don't think you'll ever be able to understand how important of a role you've played in my lifetime. Love you so much, Mom."
Wow.
And Shane says, "Thinking about her, ... Laurel is the most selfless of us all. She has always prioritized us, her family, over all else in her whole life. If you sum it up, you could say she's just the best sibling."
Aww.
out of all the 6, you're the best to him.
You're number 1.
And Megan wrote a list of words that she thinks of when she thinks of you. And the words are sincere, unassuming, gregarious, selfless, gentle, loyal, sympathetic, and thoughtful.
Aw. Sweet.
You have another one, Barndy?
Well, some comments about myself. I've always, like from the very beginning, Laurel, I remember being very proud of my little sister. In fact, I have one memory. I think Elisa was 6.5 when you were born. You must have been close to 2, between a year and a half to 2 years old. So that probably would have put me about 7 years old, maybe 2nd or 3rd grade. And I remember you and Mom came to school, and you were just this little toddler walking around. And I went over and, 2nd grade or whatever, I picked you up and I was carrying you all over the place. And some girl goes, "You're not allowed to just pick up a baby like that." And I said, "She's my sister." So, I was very,
God,
very
I wish
proud
I
of you.
remembered that.
Well, that's too young to remember that. Anyway, I've already talked about the hands, holding hands, falling asleep, and the fun times with the Yankees on that Yankees baseball team. And then I think I think there's a little bit of, I don't know if it's regret or just kind of sadness about just the way life works out. But, you know, I was in high school when we kind of, you know, how when you enter high school, I think you turn away from your siblings sort of, except for Courtney, because he was my party buddy and my water polo buddy. But I was kind of turned away from most of the family because you're a high school kid and you're in your own thing. So I think we lost some closeness when I went into high school, and then I moved away. And then you had, you know, that happened to you, and you're, you know, and then you guys moved to Temecula or moved to San Diego. I was still caught up in my life. So we never could retain that closeness, I think, that we had as kids. I was bummed out about that. But then we had babies together.
Yeah.
And that was a great thing to share with you, that Reed and Donovan and Shelby and Bridget together almost at the same time. And then you guys moved to Temecula, and that was wonderful too. So I'm grateful for all those times. And I can't believe we're talking about a 20-year period that we spent together raising kids. It's just over a 20-year period. It's stunning.
I know, it is
that
crazy.
You can look back and say something happened for 20 years and it's done.
Yeah.
You'll understand, Rilee, one day. It's just a very strange thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I have some more too.
Okay.
This one's from Susie Q. She says, one of my favorite, these are funny. One of my favorite memories of Laurel is when I got married and we stayed at Mom's house until we were able to move into base housing. She put her ear on the wall between her room and the one we were staying in. And she was always thinking we were always doing it. And then she said, oh, and also she used to love to make me gag when I was pregnant with Corey. She lived with us in her senior year and made me dry heave a lot.
It was so fun because there were certain things the one specific I remember was tuna, and I would just walk by her and go, tuna, and then she was like,
oh my God.
You just had to say the word.
We can still do that to Suzanne. I think we can still elicit that response.
And she also said, and on a personal note, Laurel is such a giving, honorable person. She listens and respects other opinions, even when she might not agree. She is so genuine and kind. Love you, Lars.
Aw, that's sweet.
And Jamie says, I have so many great memories with Laurel as a kid, from singing songs, borrowing her Bruce Springsteen tape. Excuse me. Bruce Springsteen. I can't say that. Bruce Springsteen tapes, to thinking she was the coolest as she laid out by the pool every day.
Sun worshiper.
But my favorite memories are the ones we made when I moved out there. And my favorite is when I'd come spend the night in Temecula with her. She always bought red vines and Diet Dr. Pepper and sometimes Abnerist. What is that? Abnerist? Arbormist.
It's a wine that's like about 93% fruit juice. And then the rest is wine. It's really
okay.
Good.
It's Arbormist then. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you always bought red vines and Diet Dr. Pepper and Arbormist, and we would watch shows and just hang out. She was like a best friend that I could talk to about anything without judgment. We would crack up watching Friends together and just laugh and talk. She's always been one of my favorite people.
Wow.
Aw, that's so nice. Wow.
That is very
nice. Courtney says, my earliest memory, I believe, is Laurel coming home from the hospital. I would imagine we all looked on proudly. She always had a team of parents. We all adored and cared for her. Some of her family dispersed for college, marriage, etc., and some tough years followed. I'm proud of her perseverance. She's a wonderful daughter, mother, and sister. I'm looking forward to seeing the podcast and all the comments from others.
Aw, that's nice.
And then let's see. Last but not least is Grammy. And Grammy says, we've had a pretty good ride, huh? Mm-hmm. I'm so proud of you. You were so quiet but very wise, and now you have really come to your core. You talk and amaze us with your knowledge and awareness. You seem to be having a really good time. My heart feels lighter because of it. What more could I want for your kids than what more could you want for your kids than to see them blossom in their own life? Thank you for sharing your boys with me. You were always intent on becoming a boy. You wouldn't wear dresses or anything girly. Okay, sorry, I read that. She put it all together. So she said, what more could you want for your kids than to see them blossom in their own life? Thank you for sharing your boys with me. Then she goes on to say, you were always intent on becoming a boy. You would not wear dresses or anything girly. Now it seems you're comfy in your female skin and you wear it so well. Remember what a good baseball player you were? You, Sandy, and Terry could have gone on and played with the guys. You always wanted all your hair cut off. It was blonde and curly. You were such an interesting child, and I thank you for having me as a mom.
Aw, that's so nice.
Do you still have gender identity issues, Laurel?
Well, I no longer would like a penis. I'm fine without one.
When did you let go of that dream?
I don't know. I don't know, but I think I have a vague memory of trying to stand on the toilet one day when I was little.
I did that too. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I don't know when that, and I'm still kind of tomboy. I don't know. I don't really know if I am anymore or not. I mean, I guess I am. I'm not, I don't really like makeup or, but I do like to look nice. So, I mean, it kind of,
you're in balance.
I'm in balance. But, all those comments are so nice. And that's like, I was thinking when you're reading them, that's always like, everyone, why do I get so choked up? Anyway, everyone like you, they live their life, they want to have a career and they want to do this and that. And all I ever wanted to do was just be a good person,
Wow.
And you were, and your family recognizes that, like we all see you.
Yeah. And I always kind of wish I did have that drive to, get a career or whatever, but for some reason I never did. But that could also be because I was so kind of grew up like Reed, like I said, a scared kid. So I think when you have that in your that's what you think you are, and maybe you don't feel like you're able to do it. I think that's something that I always struggle with. Like, do I not have like this career that makes me a ton of money? Because deep inside, I don't think that I could do it. I don't know.
Well, you want to be kind. You don't need money to be kind. That's the best thing. That's your goal. Just be it. Yeah, it's cool.
I agree. I don't know why I brought up like the career thing, but
I think I know what you're saying. I mean, but I also think that from a certain perspective, you could say too that when you have something that shakes your entire life from childhood, you are, a lot of your mind power goes towards sorting that out and dealing with that, and then other people who didn't have maybe like you had a super traumatic thing happen to you. Other people who don't have something like that, I think they have more space in their mind to go and explore different things. They're not spending so much time maintaining just their well-being and living day to day. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, you guys are frozen for the first time. Am I frozen?
Yeah, you're frozen.
Yeah. Oh, but you're back.
Oh, you're back. I totally agree with you. And just before I forget, when you're reading Courtney's, and I don't want to go back to my assault, but I had to tell him when he got home. And it was so funny, and it's so funny, like the story, when people would hear the story, like they would what? Because I remember I had to tell him, and his first response was, I think he hit my leg or something. Because just going back, no one knew what to do. Anyway, but
what was he doing, or what do you mean? Like he hit your leg, just like he didn't know?
Yeah, I remember sitting up in that condo in his bedroom, and my friend Kathy was with me, and she was like, "You have to tell him." And I told him, and I think he would have been what, 17 or 18?
Yeah, he was probably a senior.
And he was probably high. No, I'm just kidding.
Probably.
But But no, I just remember like telling him, and I think he just like, what do I do? What do I say? What do I do? And it was just kind of a funny thing. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, like maybe to make a joke or something, but as weird as it was almost kind of like, what else would he have done? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just such a weird thing. But for some reason, when you were reading Courtney's, that made me think of that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Hey, Laurel.
Oh my gosh.
What were you going to say, Rilee? You have an idea, a thought?
No, go for it.
Well, I mean, Laurel and I are kind of in similar, like, I think we're in the good years of our lives. Like we're there's light shining. It's good. We've got happiness, and optimism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree that that's where you are? Things are much more positive and bright.
Oh yeah.
And then we have 2020, right? I mean,
yeah.
2020 and 2021 for that matter. So how are you coping with this craziness?
It's weird. I don't know. It can be very depressing. Like, I'm so glad that I feel so bad for the people that don't have a job. I'm so glad that I still have a job, because I think if I did not have a job to go to, I would be in a deep depression, because on my days off, I'm just like, you're not really supposed to go out and do things. And so I feel like it's a really scary. I don't feel as scared as I did back in March. Like, I remember feeling very worried, and I still feel very worried, but I think we maybe know a little bit more about it now, so it's not as bad. I'm talking about COVID, if you haven't figured out. But so it's just kind of like, I'm really uneasy with the political things, and I think, I'm like, it's just an uneasy feeling. So I think I just maybe have a little bit less trust in people. I think, it's just an overall feeling of uneasiness. And I'm really hoping that, 2021 starts to take a turn, maybe with the vaccine. Like, I finally floated to the COVID floor the other night. And I wanted to go and help, but I was, also like, just weary, because I felt like it's almost feel like you're walking into a cloud of germs. And but anyway, but it was really cool, and the people that work there are just amazing that they're doing this. But it was so sad, because to go into that room, they've got to get all this protective equipment on, so they have these monitors, and people are monitoring their oxygen saturation and their heart rate. And then they would call, and I would have to answer the phone, and they would say, yeah, the patient in 619 or whatever, someone needs to check his oxygen saturations or blah, blah, blah. So I'd have to tell somebody, and instead of going into the room like usual, they would call into the patient's room and say, Rilee, can you check the prongs in your nose and make sure they're in there?
Yeah.
It's also, can't think of what the word is. I'm trying to think.
Disconnected.
Yeah, and is dehumanizing a word?
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like they're just this, I can't even imagine what they're going through. Like, no one wants to just walk in their room and help them. And they're in there all by themselves. And the only contact they have is someone calling them on the phone, or this person in all this protective equipment. And I just thought, God, it's just, very, very sad. And
it's likely just going to get worse before it gets any better.
I know. I don't know how much worse it could get. I mean, I guess things can always get worse, but I really do hope. I really hope for a better 2021, but I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know.
So COVID stress is, you're thankful for that you've been working, and I totally get that, because being locked in a house is hard, and you live in an apartment, that would be really challenging.
Yeah. And I also had the fear of and I still do, but now that I'm vaccinated, I'm hope not as much, that I feel like I've tried to say with COVID, and I feel like our world right now in general, people are so self-involved that I think that's one of the big horrible things in our world right now. People need to be less self-involved you know, do things for others. Like, you know, like, how can I say this?
I think
so like,
that's,
I don't mean to bring up a mask, but you know, I think people should wear a mask, not just for themselves, but for others. But I think people think, I lost my train of thought. I tried to think of this last night. But anyway, but I think that if people were so less self-involved and, you know, try to help each other out, but everyone's just so absorbed.
yeah,
And so
they are.
But my thing of thinking was, so like this COVID thing, my biggest fear is giving it to a loved one, you know? And so, and like, for instance, Kevin, if he gets COVID, it's going to be from me. And I feel like that's a huge burden because he doesn't leave his house. That's a huge burden. And if he were to get it and God forbid die or something, that's a big, you know, thing to carry. And Rumi and Mays, you know, like, I mean, it was just all this. So I think that's the thing that wears me down the most, is the thought of, you know, giving it to someone that I love.
Yeah.
That's, to me, I think that's probably the most scariest thing.
Do you think you're putting a lot of pressure? Do you think that's a reasonable thing to?
I think it's reasonable and unreasonable at the same time.
Yeah.
If that's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
agree.
I think Elisa feels the same way. I think that, you know, especially her, I mean, she's like, you know, right there. I fortunately don't have patient contact, but she does. So I think it's just a heavy burden to carry, but there's really no way out of it, you know.
Right.
Hopefully things will get better.
Yeah, I hope so. So how do you, like, before the COVID happened, what, on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, like, what was kind of your stress level then? And then what would you say your stress level is now on a day-to-day basis on average?
Oh gosh. I think I'm a really low stressful person. I think I'm really mellow. Before COVID, I don't think I really stressed out anything. I'm trying to remember. So my stress level was maybe like a 2 or 3. I don't really even know what I would have been stressed about, but now I would say it's probably, I'd probably say like a 7 or 8, 6 or 7, or, you know, and I think besides COVID, I think a big stressor for me is the people in this world. I think they're unpredictable. I think they're scared too. So people act differently and irrationally. And I think, to me, that's a big fear, because you know, before, I think we all kind of knew how people would act, and if that makes sense.
No, you throw
like,
stress in, throw fear and stress
into
the picture. Humans get
you really know.
wiggy.
And I think that, and I hate the way everything is just, I keep using dehumanizing, but it's just so, like, you know, you go to the store and there's this barrier between you and the cashier, and, you know, people try not to walk near you because, you know, it's just so, like, it's very depressing. You really think about it.
You can't hug your family when you see them and whatnot. And
I know. Yeah.
So, so like, part of the reason Brandon and I wanted to do this podcast is because, like, right now, I mean, you mentioned like humanity and how, you know, you think people are unpredictable now and everyone's fearful and acting out and whatnot. And so, of course, like, you know, there's COVID, but then there's also like the political divide in our country and the racial divide in our country. And there's just like a lot going on, and especially in this last year. And part of the reason that Brandon and I wanted to do this like interview with everyone is because it felt like, you know, our family was kind of disagreeing on certain things, which is fine. We've always disagreed about some things, but it felt like in the last year or few years that those disagreements were holding more weight, and they were kind of like, you know, just like a little bit more sticky and heavy and, you know, just different. And so that's part of the reason why we wanted to to do this podcast. And so I was just wondering, like, you mentioned humanity, and I'm wondering what you think, like, how would you describe what's going on in our country right now? And like, why is that happening? Like, how do you kind of view everything that's going down? I mean, all things considered, what do you think's really going on, and what's at the root of why families in our country are kind of, at a divide right now?
That's a good question. Deep. I'm not really sure.
What's causing the divide? What's causing the fracture?
Well, I don't really want to get political, so I won't really go there. But
you can though, if you'd like. You totally can.
Well, I just kind of think that we like I don't want to diss on any people's beliefs, but I feel like we have a leader that people have it's almost like a cult following, and they can't see any different. So I feel like there's before, I think in general that, and they may say the same thing about us, but I think before all this, I think that we could have our differences, like you said, and we could like this president or like this president, or we could like this or not, and you agreed with it. But now something has shifted to where if you don't like what I believe, then there's issues. Yeah. And I do think that's equal on both sides, but
totally.
But I feel like, and I'm not blaming any specific thing, but I think that what's missing in this world now is everyone is so self-absorbed. I keep going back to that.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what that has to do with, I think it kind of started before Trump, but I actually kind of think, now that I think about it, I kind of think it has to do a lot with social media. I think people are so really good behind a keyboard, and they'll, people are so mean. So I think that's probably where it started to begin, was the social media and the human interaction, and people are so involved in their phones and this and that we've lost that human interaction. And now it's just escalated with a president that some people like and some people don't, and also the same with Obama. Some people liked Obama and some people didn't, but now I think it's just kind of flipped a little bit, that now there's no like, oh, you like that? Okay, that's good. I like this. Like, there's, something is, and I'm hoping that our world will change a little bit. And maybe that's where COVID comes in, is we can kind of stop being that involved person and start to care about others like we used to,
Wow. I am effing impressed. That was like, at the beginning, you're like, I don't really know. And I feel like you just summarized. I mean, maybe I'm biased because I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said, but that was like a really, really insightful synopsis of what the hell's going on right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That was.
Thanks, Rilee. I mean, I hate to, I would never want to knock somebody for who they like, and I wouldn't do that, but so that's always just like a touchy subject, but we should be able to live in a world that you like this person and I don't like this person, and that's okay. And it used to be like that.
Well, let me ask you this, Laurel. Let me ask you this. Day to day with human contact at work, person to person, it's okay, right? Like, you guys, you're not fighting with coworkers, are you?
No.
Are you arguing with coworkers? Are
What do you
there
mean
any,
about just
or just
general?
about anything? Is there stress and tension between coworkers?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
So I think all that exists on that social media internet level. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist face to face. So what you want is here, but obviously I think more people are spending 90% of their day in another reality, which
Oh,
is
for sure.
which is the digital world. But still
Right.
on a human level, because do you remember that guy or that girl in high school would be really loud or obnoxious and yell things in the quad or just announce something or just be really loud? Does that sound familiar to both of you?
Yeah.
No.
Just the
Just
loud
people who
person,
are obnoxious and loud.
obnoxious,
Yes.
loud people.
Yeah.
Well, now everybody's like that on social media. So imagine if you translate a post for whatever it's posting about, whatever side it's picking, and then that person walks into your work and announces the same kind of thing verbally. It just doesn't work. It's just silly. So I'm glad to hear that on a human level, you're not feeling the tensions in day-to-day work environment, right? That's great.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think humans are still focused on a lot of right things, but not in the digital world.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then just back to like the social media thing, I think like the self-absorbed thing is people are good intentions are bad. They're always trying to put stuff out there on the media about this is going on or this is going on, where I think that, people need to find out for themselves and do their own research rather than rely on what's posted. And that's even like on the news stations and stuff, like you need to find, I think that people just have forgotten how to rely on their own knowledge,
Don't you think that's part of the selfishness that you're talking about? The self-centered
I think so.
drive. They just, you got to believe what I believe. Here it is, right? Here's what I feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really hoping that, things will change. I don't know.
Yeah.
You think it's going to get worse?
Everything in general or COVID, or what do you mean? Just everything in general?
COVID and politics and or national security or whatever however you want to look at that.
I mean, I hope. I really
hope
don't
it doesn't
know.
get worse.
I hope it doesn't get worse. I do feel like I do think it will change. I think it will get better.
You think people will learn from the mistakes they made during this 2020, 2021?
I hope
we'll
so.
heal?
I think I have a feeling that I feel like, and it's happened with people who not to bring up COVID, people who didn't believe in COVID and then lose a family member to COVID or get COVID themselves, their view changes. So I think, unfortunately, with so many people dying, it's going to hit just about everybody. And maybe this self-absorption and helping others will flip when they realize that it's, we're all going through this. This is not just something that affects certain people. Like, even if you aren't affected by COVID, by family members, whatever, it's around you. So I'm hoping that, maybe that's the unfortunate change this world needed, was people needed to wake up and, I don't know. And it's Kevin and I have this joke that we brought it from China.
You and Kevin, your China
we started it all.
Yeah.
But anyway, so hopefully it'll get better. I do feel it will get better.
Yeah.
Hopefully in my
and
time.
To be fair, like, social media is so new, like we're, it's such a new beast that we're learning to tame. So hopefully there's some like progress that's made on like humane and ethical social media usage.
Yeah.
Because right now it's just like a plague or something, it's
you guys think
new.
you think Twitter and Facebook and all these other social media apps should be shutting down controversial or hate groups?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, we just had an insurrection, right? So we just literally had potentially thousands of people storm, or hundreds, if whatever the number was, storm the United States Capitol with apparent intentions to assassinate or kidnap, whatever it was. I mean, it
Right.
was a seemingly an attempted coup to some degree, for sure, and some
Right.
were well prepared to take over.
Right.
So does that put us in a place where, at least temporarily, some of that speech should be shut down? Or is this a time where, because free speech is something that only the government can, I mean, government can't make laws to limit free speech, but Twitter can, because they're a private company, right? So
Right.
is this the time to do that? Or do you think that's a real dangerous thing to even try to do?
Well, I think that it would be dangerous just because people are saying when they do that, their free speech is taken away. But on the other hand, if you're going to talk about going to assassinate Mike Pence, then your free speech should be taken away. So if there could be kind of a happy medium, like I enjoy social media because I connect with friends that I haven't connected with since I was little. Like I don't use it for political or anything like that. So if it could be used like that, but for sure. And I mean, I think the thing is, if you're going to go on and incite violence, then that I feel like you lose your right to use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
But if you're inciting that, they don't see it that way. Does that make sense?
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know where I stand on that. I feel really conflicted about limiting anyone's speech. I just don't know.
But you know, it's already limited, Rilee. You know, you can't tell somebody you're going to kill them with a, you know, that's already limited, right? I mean, there's certain things you can't just go around declaring in public and saying in public. So, you know, is it okay to be said on social media?
I guess just the difference is like, it's a private company making those decisions, and like private companies and governments for that matter too have, you know, like different interests and different parties and people swaying their decision making. So I don't like that. I don't like that these big entities could be affected, like can make decisions that aren't perfect, you know? Yeah. They have way too much power. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about all that.
I know it's tough. It's really tough.
Oh, Laurel, did you get another package?
Yeah, that's so weird. Hold on one second.
Okay. Yeah, I just really don't know. I've listened to a lot of debates about like the whole Twitter and free speech and stuff, and like I just see both sides, obviously, but
well, do you see both sides though in terms of, you know, inciting rebellion? I mean, there are groups that are organized to take down the U.S. and
that's a problem.
That was so. I mean, so you don't want to do anything about that. You want that to live, and you want that to prosper. I mean, understandably,
well,
if you squelch it, it's still going to survive in cracks and crevices, maybe. But
hey, you guys,
exactly. Yeah.
Would it be an okay time to take a potty break?
Well,
of course.
Yeah, go ahead. We can
because I can't hold it anymore.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Come on. I'm glad I don't have to make the decision. Is all, I guess. But I think if you put out a fire on Twitter, another, you know, bunch of brush fires are going to start elsewhere in terms of like, you know, rebellions or people organizing in a hateful way. Obviously it makes it harder for them because, you know, like Twitter is a widely used platform, for example, but I almost like, part of me is like, it's good to keep that stuff out in the open and not hide it and not pretend that it's not there, because I do think those things are getting smaller and smaller as time goes on and we all come together. I think humanity is going in a great direction personally. But I think it's good to keep that ugly stuff accessible for other people, as long as people know how to deal with it and know how to I don't know. You just don't want to push those things down too far, because if you push them away, they rise up, like what happened in the Capitol, for example,
Well, they
you
weren't
want to
pushed
keep
away,
an eye
Riley.
on them.
They weren't pushed away.
But if
I mean,
they, but
very few were censored, and then the Capitol uprising was partly, for sure, largely a result of interactions and conversations on social media, prompted by.
so then why weren't there more people? Why weren't there more protection at the Capitol when this happened?
Well, that's a whole nother issue.
Okay, that's
I don't want to.
That'll come
yeah,
out
I don't
in
know where you
investigations,
guys,
I'm sure.
I took my earphones out while I was going to the bathroom, but that's been my biggest thing. That city should have been on lockdown. Why on earth? You're talking about the insurrection, right? Why on earth that? I mean, I'm not a politician or anything, but I'm smart enough to know that city should have been on lockdown.
Well, there's no way you're going to have President Trump wanting the city locked down when his followers are showing up for a rally. That would be a message that he would never support, right? No president would have a rally and then say, but lock down the city behind me because of this rally is going to get out of hand.
Right. But I mean, does it have to come from him to do that? Couldn't it have just been?
Well, I don't know. That's the curious thing, is that we'll see how this
that's all. Like the FBI and all that. That's separate from him. So it is curious. I mean, as to why. Okay, everyone organized on Twitter. All of it was out on the open. So why?
Right.
Why wasn't it anticipated more? I think that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, I think so. But hopefully it'll all be revealed in the next couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Barndy? Is there, I feel like we went through most of our questions.
Yeah, I think we did. I think that was nice,
Laurel. You were on fire.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And your Wi-Fi worked pretty well.
I know. I think we only froze once.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was fun.
So I have one last question. I asked this question to Grandma before we ended also. And I asked basically just, how do I say this? Like, what would you hope for, your boys and your family and humanity at large? Like, what would you want everyone to kind of keep in mind and kind of direct their life towards, in terms of, like, you want them to keep each other's well-being in mind, or you want them to keep thinking of each other, or whatever it might be. But what do you think is most important, or what you personally as Laurel would hope that people kind of like keep in the back of their mind at all times moving forward?
Well, I hate to keep.
Oh, we lost your audio. Oh, that's interesting. It was going really well until we jinxed it.
Can't hear it.
We lost your audio. Batteries went dead in your earphones, maybe? Me? There we go.
Yeah, now I can.
Oh, we jinxed ourselves.
I know.
No, what I was saying is I hate bring it back to self-absorption and all that, but I think it's just important for, I think everybody just needs to be kind and, think of each other's well-being. See, to me, I feel like, and I always feel like I'm not saying that, I don't say things like this because I want people to go, oh, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's so important to put others before yourself. Not saying ignore yourself, but I think, make sure the people around you are good and happy and safe, and maybe think of yourself at the same time, but stop putting everyone first. And so for my family, I would want them to, I think our family is like that though. I think our family needs to continue to, be kind to each other and, make
understanding of one another.
Understanding of one another. And, and I do hope that it's sad that we have had a few family fallouts, I guess you would call it, but hopefully we can get to the point where, like before in the old days, oh, okay, you like him, well, I don't like him, and let's just move on. Or you believe in this and I don't believe in this, but we'll just move on. I think the thing is now it's like when somebody doesn't believe in something and this person does, they're always trying to like throw their beliefs on it. People just need to go, oh, you feel that way? Oh, okay. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of trying to change, you know.
Yeah. Or
Do
at
you
least have a
think that
conversation about it. Or at least
well,
have a
yeah, I was going to
conversation.
say, like, do you think it's important to have those conversations and try to understand where the other person's coming from? Or are you more of like, oh, you know, you disagree, I disagree, like, that's okay, moving on? Like, do you kind of want to move on from it or dig deeper? Or where do you stand on that?
Well, I think there can be like an initial conversation. And if you're still kind of feeling the same way, oh, well, like, you know, I don't really feel that way, then move on.
Mm-hmm.
Like to kind of keep, you know, talking about it and stuff. It's just, you know, does that make sense?
Well,
Yeah.
talking to, but
Yeah.
you want to understand how other people feel. Do you ever,
I do want to understand how other people feel, but I think that sometimes you can, what is it? Beat it like a dead horse or something?
right. Oh, for sure.
Beat a dead horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are frozen again.
You'll come back. Just keep talking.
But, you know, I think that there is like the good initial conversation and then, but there needs to be a time where, you know, where it's that the conversation is going to lead to an argument or something.
Well, I think it's, let me throw this out there. I think it might only become an argument if you impose your selfish viewpoints on it. So, right.
Very true.
So if you're literally going towards others and you're trying to give and focus on others, well, then you should want to know, well, why do you feel this way? Why is this important to you? Get to the root of that? Because I think, I personally think and hope that when those questions are asked, that people come up with reasonable responses, right? I think most probably would. I think.
I agree. Well, it made me think of something. So like, this is just kind of an example. At work, you know, most of us are getting the vaccine. There's a few people who aren't, who might not ever get it or who are kind of weary and they're waiting. And we're able to have a conversation like, oh, you know, nobody's going, oh my God, are you really?
Yeah.
You're not going to get the vaccine? No, we're just like, oh, you know, that's how they feel. And nobody should be chastised for thinking different than you do.
That's hilarious. Imagine that conversation when everybody's spewing a social media post and you're all 4 or 5 talking together and everybody's given a snarky little picture or a snarky little comment about how they feel instead of a regular conversation where you literally and genuinely care about what the other person feels.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you feel like, so you mentioned like our little family fallouts, which I'm assuming you're talking about over text, right?
Right.
So just, you know, without going too deep into those, like, what do you think is at the core of that? Is that just because it's all taking place on a digital platform, or why do you think that's happening?
I think so. Well, I mean, what I say, I think so, but I also remember there's been fallouts before, you know, like at Elisa's house. I think it probably, the text makes it worse. But I also just think that, you know, if somebody believes this and this other person doesn't, just let it be, you know? If I feel like I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that he thinks like that, then I can maybe go talk to Kevin about it, you know? I shouldn't chastise this person because that's how they feel. But then I, you know, or my boys, you know, like you know, as long as you've got an outlet to discuss it with somebody else, rather than the person that believes that. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like it's always oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's just like, it's just not right to belittle someone for how they feel. As much as I must be opposed to what they feel, you know, you know, let them believe what they do, as long as you have, you know, someone else you can talk about it instead of, you know, does that make sense? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. You're very good about that. Obviously, it's hard for some people to turn off and to not want to argue.
Everybody just needs to let people be who they are. If you're not going to be violent.
Yeah.
That's where I draw my line, you know. It's like if
you're gonna,
or if you're going to hurt somebody, or, you know.
Yeah.
So.
No, well
so
said.
you want to have everyone keep in mind of being understanding to one another and agree to disagree and respect one another's, different beliefs and be kind, essentially.
Exactly. Like
Love
rainbows
that.
and butterflies.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope for rainbows and butterflies too. We need some of that.
We do. Yeah.
That's good. Well, just spread it. That's all you can do is be the change you want to see, right? And just spread it around wherever you go. And you do that, Laurel, and you do it beautifully.
Thanks, B. Thanks, guys.
No problem, Lolo.
Lolo. Nice job, Lolo.
This
was awesome. Yeah, this was awesome.
How come I got to be picked the first kid to do it?
You were the first one to be ready.
Oh.
Courtney hasn't responded. Elisa hasn't given a date. Rick is at the end of the month. Suzanne is open maybe some weekends. She wanted to, go on a day. She was certain she felt like up to it. So we're going to coordinate that with her. But you were the first one to say, one of the first to say, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Laurel.
You were amazing. Yeah, cool.
Am I going to be able to watch it?
Not for months. Not for months. It'll probably at least
we're going to put them out. Well, maybe we could allow Laurel to watch her own.
No, just kidding.
Oh,
Whatever.
really?
Whatever.
But we thought we wanted to record all of the siblings and grandma and then release it all at the same time so that people weren't kind of seeing one another's and kind of altering their, we just wanted everyone to be who they were and not alter themselves at all. Yeah.
Good idea.
Okay, we can share it with you, Laurel.
Yeah, you would love it. Yeah,
it'd be kind of interesting to watch.
Definitely. Well, thanks, Lolo. I love you, and that was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I love you too, honey.
Love you, Lolo.
Yeah, that was great.
I'm going to stop the video, but stay here. Don't leave.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, that was season 1, episode 3. Done. Laurel. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Same, but different.
Same, but different.